Well,
absolutely.
well, it's great to meet you. You're the talent maximizer. Before we get into your skills and your history, I want to begin with looking at the calendar now in April. 4 years ago, the world stopped on a dime. How did you
Mhm.
survive the pandemic, and how did it change you?
Well, let's go back like 1 month prior.
Okay.
1 month prior, my new book, Talent Magnetism, released. And I was perfectly, I was perfectly situated for what I would call a very good, book at the right time, at the right place, given that that there was a lot, companies were having a very difficult time finding and keeping talent. And so the book came out, and like 3 weeks later, nobody cared about finding and keeping talent. I mean, rightfully so. They cared about keeping their talent alive, right? We
Yeah.
were all kind of freaked out. So that was really an interesting moment for me, because I was like, oh my gosh, I worked so hard to write this book. And if you know anything about commercial publishing, it takes, from the time you write your book to the time it comes out, 18 months.
Yeah.
So, I poured everything into it. So as a result of that, I actually decided, if this is going to be my swan song, if this is going to be my last book, I cannot go out like that.
Yeah.
So during the pandemic, I wrote another book. I got another book deal, which was a miracle, because nobody even knew if there would be publishers left.
Right.
And I wrote the book, Can We Talk? How to Manage Difficult Conversations at Work. So it was just a moment in time for me where, like everyone else, I had no idea what the future held.
Yeah, it was strange, very strange. So let me ask you this. If I put you in front of a bunch of third graders right now and one of the
Mhm.
kids said, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Let me start with how I would answer my kids, because they don't even know when they're in their 20s. I help organizations attract top talent that will stick around.
So what did you want to be in the third grade?
What I wanted to be an actress. So,
Did you
and
did
here I am, I'm on the stage with you.
There we go. See, exactly. Did you ever act? Did you ever do any kind of theater or anything like that?
Oh, I did a little bit in high school, and it was funny. I was in the drama club, and I don't know if you watched the show Everybody Loves Phil. Phil Rosenthal, I'm sorry, Phil Rosenthal wrote Everybody Loves Raymond,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, he was in my high school, so and he was in the drama club, but I think he went a little farther than most of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very close to the high school that Paul Rudd graduated from, and
Oh, wow.
I was there
Yeah.
for something, and I think he wrote on one of the walls back there. So anyway, he did pretty good for himself. Um, so let's go back to where you were born and raised, and how these seeds of you being able to pull out talent, to help the talent, and to have this retention rate that you have. How did all of these seeds grow into who you are today?
Well, I think they really come from the fact that I grew up in New York, right outside of New York City. And if you know anything about us New Yorkers, we really don't filter ourselves.
Right?
We kind of tell it like it is. And I think that over the years, all of the work that I've done, the way I work with my clients, I'm very transparent. I just tell it like it is. I don't sugarcoat it. I'm like, if you want the California version, let me know. I can soften it, but if you want the New York version and you just want to get it done, here's what needs to happen. So I think growing up in an environment where, you don't beat around the bush, you just say what you need to say, has been very helpful in my coaching and in the work that I do with my clients.
I will tell you, that's the one thing people always say about Kansas City. They're always like, "You guys are so friendly there." The
Oh.
coasts tend to be very abrasive. My dad was born in Brooklyn and raised in Long Island, so I have relatives and I have an understanding. I've been up there enough. So yeah, it's you guys roll. That's a whole different world from,
Yeah, believe me, I don't think many people are like, you guys are so nice in New York.
I don't take it the wrong way, but I've never
I
heard it.
don't.
Yeah, and it's just is what it is.
But that's why I live in Boston now. So
Right,
we're a little
exactly.
bit nicer, but not quite Kansas City.
Right, right, right. So let me ask you this. Uh, you're obviously highly driven, and I'm curious who a hero or an inspiration has been for you in your career and life.
That's an interesting question, because I really don't have one hero. I didn't really have any examples growing up of, somebody that was a real go-getter. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, so it's not like, oh, my mom like, it wasn't until I was much older that I found out that, oh, some parents of friends of mine, contemporaries of mine, their parents, like, their moms, like, went to college, like I was like, I was in like a whole different world.
Yeah.
So, um, I don't know. I think it really comes back to being self-driven and I think like many of us wanting to do better than how we were raised or how our parents did.
So, if you could meet one person alive on the planet right now that you find inspirational or fascinating, who would that be? Who would you love to meet?
Taylor Swift.
Okay, well, we have a Kansas City connection to Taylor Swift. She's actually got a house here with Kelsey. So,
Well,
yeah,
she's got one in Rhode Island too, so not too far.
she's probably got one everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I have so much admiration for her. My daughter and my daughter's 24 now. We've been following her since my daughter was in second grade. And I just think she's such an inspiration for women and what you can do when you take control.
I did watch that movie on Netflix. Did you see that about her?
Yes, I did. And I was very fortunate. I got to see her twice on the Eras tour.
Oh, cool.
And both times like completely blown away. And she's just a great example of what it's like to be human and human to people.
I think the good thing about her is that no matter how high she goes up, she's an example of one of those artists or musicians that constantly works on their craft. They're very
Hmm.
clear about the fact that that's what their whole reason for being down here is. And then everything
Absolutely.
else that happens is ancillary. It's obviously a part of it, but she's evolved a lot over time. Different genres, different things that have happened to her. So it's a good thing. Um, so what is your drive and inspiration every day? When you wake up, what is it about you that wants to help others get to where they want to be in life and also evolve personally as a human being?
That's a great question. I think it comes back to the fact that when I was 24 years old, I was tossed into a leadership role. I was in the executive suite. And man, I just thought I knew it all. I was 24. Hey, I had a
Of
corner
course.
office and a parking spot.
Yeah.
So which in Houston was a big deal.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, the way I was as a leader, oh my gosh, like years later, I wrote an apology and I put that on CBS Interactive, an apology from a first-time boss, as a result of writing my first book, Suddenly in Charge. And interestingly enough, I wrote that book in 2010, and last week, the third edition of Suddenly in Charge was released. So it's just the fact that I don't believe anybody should have to work for a crappy manager,
Yeah.
including how I was. And I don't believe you have to be a crappy manager. And I believe that with the right tools, you can really be somebody that other people want to work for and follow. And so that has really been my mission in life, is to like eliminate all the crappy managers.
Yeah. So, who do you admire? I mean, we look at business, I think that rise to success like a Bezos or an Elon Musk and the way that we look at sports. There's this collaborative effort that, I mean, there's always got to be a figurehead, but there's this rise to prominence. Who in the business world has been a model or an example that you've always admired?
Well, I think that changes with time, right? Like I was a huge, and I still am a huge Amazon fan, but
Mhm.
sometimes the stuff I read, I'm like, I don't know if this is really that good.
Yeah.
For one company to have that much power, not only on, how we order things, but what we watch, where we shop for our food. I mean, it's pretty scary at times.
Yeah.
But I also look at that in admiration and say, how do you go from a place that was just selling books to creating all these different avenues to really connect with your customers? I think that's kind of interesting and kind of cool.
I mean, it's kind of like the media. If you monopolize something, it's just too much. I mean, like you said, they have media, they have all of these abilities to sell. It's too much. It's like when Bill Gates got busted by the feds for his whole thing with Netscape, trying to, close them out and make Internet Explorer the main. You know what I'm saying? It seems like eons ago, but it was the same idea. You can't monopolize everybody's choice. We're in a free market here. There's got to be more choices for people to get involved with.
Well, we're going to see if that's true, right, with Live Nation, because I believe that the government is going to go ahead and move forward with
Yeah,
Ticketmaster and Live Nation, which, as you probably know, you can't buy a ticket for much without going through them. So,
yeah.
and going to one of their stadiums. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out.
I remember when Eddie Vedder was fighting that years and years ago. I don't know if you remember that, but he was really big. Lead singer of Pearl Jam was a really big proponent
Uh,
of the fact that he didn't want people to have to pay too much money for tickets. And I think even Mick Jagger and all these other guys have said the same thing. You can't gouge these people. This is not something that's okay. So
Well,
hopefully,
I'm not so sure how much they may be speaking and not doing, because I went to see Garth Brooks a year or so ago. Every ticket in the house, no matter where you sat, was the same price, whether you were in the front row or all the way up at the top of, in Foxborough. So
yeah,
I wonder whether if he can do that, why can't another artist say, everyone's going to pay the same amount. I don't
right.
care where they sit.
Yeah, yeah, true. Well, I know that when he kicked that tour off, he has a soft spot for Kansas City. He had like 2 weeks here. And
Wow.
I think the prices were pretty expensive, but yeah, you would figure if they're big time musicians, they could wield some power, you
I
know.
think so.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So in all of these triumphs that you've had in your professional life, what's one of your best success stories?
Oh gosh, there are a lot. Um, I think my best success stories are when I help organizations really figure out the magic, like what's getting in the way of them being able to attract the people they need. But just as important is what is getting in the way of them being able to keep these people, because what is the point of hiring great people if you can't keep them?
Yeah,
And those organizations that are really willing to look deeply into that, they're the ones who have the most success, because they're willing to say, I'm the problem, it's me, as our friend Taylor would say, right?
right, exactly. So, let me ask you this. Of You have to give a lot of good advice to people. That's a part of what you do. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
What's the best? um, to be myself
Yeah,
and to not accept unsolicited feedback. And meaning, look, people give feedback for a lot of reasons, and it's usually for themselves. So unless I ask you, hey, does this outfit look good? I don't really want to hear your opinion.
right, right.
So, I mean, I think that's really valid, especially when you're like me in the public eye and you've like written so many books, and you're on LinkedIn and you're blogging and all. And I say to people, hey, I value that's great that that's your opinion, but when you write your blog, feel free to put that on your blog.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So what's been one of your favorite fan letters you've gotten from your books?
Oh, it's the ones where people tell me how, the book has changed their life, how they were able to ask for a raise and actually get it, or they received the promotion when after years they had been trying and they hadn't been able to, or they're a much better leader than they ever thought they could be. I mean, those are the kinds of emails that I get from people that I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I should keep writing.
What was the moment that made you write this letter reflecting on your early boss? Did you have a person that inspired you? How did that happen?
Oh, well, I mean, I wrote Suddenly in Charge because of all the lessons that I had learned from the worst boss I ever had. And everything I saw her do, I did the opposite.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I kind of looked at that situation and thought, you're not perfect either, me. And
yeah.
when I wrote that letter, what was interesting, my apology, one of my former employees actually reached out to me and she said, Roberta, you weren't that bad. And as soon as she added the that, I thought, oh, yeah, I guess I was.
So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you, and you could
Mhm.
give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life, what advice would you impart on that young version of you?
Well, I would say, "Hey, don't worry, things are gonna work out."
Right.
You're
So
gonna have it all, you're just not gonna have it all at the same time.
would she listen?
Probably not, because she's from New
Right.
York.
Right. Yeah. The youth usually doesn't. They have it figured out. So of all of these things that you've done and accomplished and become and evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
Well, the fact that I think I've raised 2 somewhat healthy individuals, I have 2 grown kids. So, I mean, doing that while also working and, having your career, that's not an easy thing to do. But I would be remiss in saying that you can get that all done at the same time and not have something go awry, right? So I was very fortunate in that I was able to work when I needed to work, that I didn't work for a company. I wasn't trying to put in my 40 hours while I was trying to get my kids to soccer practice or whatever. So I just think it's a fallacy when we tell people, especially women, you got this, you can do it all. It's just, I've never seen it done well for, in particular, women who are trying to balance it all. Something always gives. And
Yeah.
the fact that I had that choice and I made that choice is something I guess I'm really proud of.
So, Roberta, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm the talent maximizer.
Okay.
I think I have great advice. I think I'm in a great position having worked as an executive and actually been in the executive suite to coach people who are on their way up and who have made it into that area of their organizations. And so, what I'm proud of is the fact that when I give advice, it's because I've actually been there.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you to jump out of a plane because I read a book on how to jump out of a plane and I've never done it. So I think that's really something I'm really proud of.
What do you like the best about living in Boston and what do you miss about New York?
Oh, that's a toughie. I love being surrounded by really smart, educated people. My husband and I always joke, like, I mean, like, how is it, I have an MBA. I'm like, how is it I'm the only person, in our neighborhood who's not a PhD? Like,
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
thought I had a good education, but maybe
Absolutely.
not.
Yeah.
And New York, absolutely miss the bagels and the pizza.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. We get off the call here, time machine pulls up in front of your house. You can either go back in the future and see one event in human history or go in the future, say 20, 50 years from now and see what's going on. Where are you going to go?
I'm going forward because I'm not looking back.
There you go. There you go. So if anyone wants to hire you, reach out, any of the good business, get your books, where do they go?
They can go to Matuson, Matuson consulting.com. They can send me a note on LinkedIn and just mention that they were listened to your podcast. And they can pick up the phone. They can actually call me. So,
Physically call. That's an alien
yes,
concept.
yes. And the number's on my website as well.
Okay, excellent. Roberta, thank you so much. Thank you for being candid. Thank you for opening up about your life. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you. I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. Thank you. Take care.